Specialised cells carry out specific functions in the body. They develop unique subcellular structures. Eukaryotic organisms like us are made up of many specialised cells. For example, there are sperm cells, nerve cells, and also muscle cells. These are just a few examples, but you will need to know how the structure of these 3 cell types relates to their function. Let's start by having a look at sperm cells then. How is a sperm cell specialised? Sperm cells must swim through the female reproductive system to fertilise an ovum. An ovum is an egg cell, and both the ovum and sperm are sex cells. There are tens of millions of these sperm cells in human semen. Each of them will have a tail that it uses for swimming through the reproductive system. Because swimming requires a lot of energy, there are also many mitochondria within a sperm cell to release energy. This part is the nucleus, which contains half the DNA of body cells. Remember, sperm and egg cells contain half the DNA from each parent to restore the total amount at fertilization. Finally, up in the head of the sperm cell, there are enzymes which allow it to penetrate an egg cell. Take a note of this slide because you should be able to explain each of these adaptations of sperm cells in the exam. Okay, let's move on now and have a look at nerve cells. Neurons connect to the brain and spinal cord and spread out across the body. They carry nerve impulses that control our actions. Nerve cells and neurons are the same thing. You might encounter either term in the exam. Let's quickly have a look at the structure of a nerve cell then. So this part is the cell body. Coming away from the cell body are the dendrites. These pick up impulses from neighbouring cells, and then the impulse passes down the long axon to ends that link with adjacent nerve cells via synapses. In the middle of the cell body, this blue blob is the nucleus. The axon of the neuron is very long to transmit impulses over long distances. In fact, the longest human axon runs from the base of the spine to the big toe. When an impulse reaches the synapse, a lot of energy is needed to produce chemicals to transmit that impulse across to the next cell. This requires a lot of energy, so neurons also have many mitochondria. You should be able to explain each of these adaptations of a nerve cell for your exam. We've mentioned impulses a few times. What are nerve impulses, and how is the neuron specialised to send them so quickly? Nerve impulses are electrical signals that travel along nerve cells. Make sure that you're using the correct terminology in your exam, so nerve impulses, and don't refer to impulses simply as messages that are being passed through the cell. A fatty layer surrounds much of the axon to insulate the electrical impulses and speed them up. This fatty layer is represented by the orange part of the diagram here. You can imagine this is a bit like the plastic coating that surrounds an electrical wire. So that's a nerve cell. Now let's have a look at how muscle cells are specialised. Muscle is made from muscle cells that can contract and move parts of the body. Muscle cells contain lots of mitochondria to provide energy for muscle contraction. An example of muscle contraction would be contracting the bicep to lift a dumbbell. You need to remember that muscle cells contain more mitochondria than average for your exam. You may not know this, but there are actually 3 types of muscle cells. Let's have a look at what these are. There are 3 types of muscle in our body. You don't have to recall the names of the different types of muscle, but you could be given a description of one of these muscle tissue types in the exam, with the instruction to explain how its structure relates to the function. This muscle type here is the skeletal muscle. This is usually joined to bones to move them. In the middle, we have cardiac muscle cells. These allow heart contractions. And over on the right, smooth muscle. This lines things like the blood vessels and our intestines. Cardiac and smooth muscle contract and relax automatically. However, we can voluntarily control contractions of the skeletal muscle. So how are each of these muscle cells specialised for contraction? All muscle cells have layers of protein filaments in them that can slide over each other to cause muscle contraction. This diagram shows two muscle filaments that are going to move in opposite directions to each other during contraction. Skeletal muscle cells fuse together during development to form cells with multiple nuclei that contract in unison. The purple dots on this diagram are the nuclei. It's this fusion of muscle cells that lets large muscles contract together.
Thanks for watching. If you want to take your GCSE revision to the next level, head over to launchpadlearning.com and check out our smart learning platform that's been designed to get you top results in your exams. We cover your whole specification and make revision fun with interactive quizzes, easy to follow videos and more. You'll be kept motivated by your own AI tutor who's here to support you every step of the way. To check it out for yourself, click here. Or click here to keep watching a selection of the videos from our full GCSE Biology course. See you there!